How can one determine the moral correctness of an action? What is the basis for believing that actions like torturing an innocent child, committing rape, murder, or engaging in racism are objectively wrong? By objectively, we imply that these actions are wrong beyond individual opinions or emotions. They are wrong regardless of personal viewpoints. It might be startling to realize that, in the absence of God, objective moral values cannot exist. Without the existence of God, what remains are simply subjective emotional responses. Those who do not subscribe to theistic beliefs often challenge this view, arguing that recognizing a deity is not necessary to grasp moral rights and wrongs, and they are correct. Humans can identify moral obligations and acknowledge the existence of objective moral values without belief in God. However, this is not the contention of theists. Rather, the Christian perspective posits that to establish a foundation for objective moral laws, a transcendent source for these values is essential. This perspective is recognized by prominent atheists. For instance, the renowned nihilistic philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche stated, "You have your way, I have my way. As for the right way, it does not exist." Similarly, Richard Dawkins, a leading proponent of atheism, remarks, "Humans have always wondered about the meaning of life. Life has no higher purpose than to perpetuate the survival of DNA. Life has no design, no purpose, no evil and no good. Nothing but blind, pitiless indifference." Intellectually honest atheists often acknowledge that without God, objective moral values may not exist, viewing this as the natural conclusion of atheistic philosophy. If evil is acknowledged, it necessitates the existence of good. Recognizing good implies the presence of an absolute, unchanging moral law that helps distinguish good from evil. Assuming such a moral law exists, one must then posit the existence of a moral lawgiver, which would inherently be God, the very entity atheists seek to disprove. Thus, if there is no moral lawgiver, then there is no moral law. Without a moral law, there can be neither good nor evil. This echoes the sentiments expressed by Richard Dawkins. The crux of the matter lies in the prerequisites for establishing objective moral laws. 3 essential elements are required. 1. An absolute and unchanging authority. 2. An absolute and unchanging standard. And 3. Absolute truth. Atheism and naturalism, which assert that nothing is absolute, everything is subject to randomness, and everything is in flux, fail to provide these foundations. In such a worldview, it becomes impossible to definitively affirm that anything is truly and objectively right or wrong. In the absence of an unchanging, absolute authority that applies an unchanging, absolute standard based on an unwavering truth, ethics devolves into mere emotion and opinion. For instance, without such moral foundations, condemning an act like rape doesn't assert its wrongness. Instead, the strongest objection becomes simply, "I don't like rape." C.S. Lewis encapsulated this concept succinctly when he remarked, "A man does not call a line crooked unless he has some idea of a straight line." For those who do not believe in God, this unchanging straight line, this absolute standard of right and wrong, does not exist. The complication arises from the fact that every human being inherently recognizes moral absolutes, even if they do not always adhere to them. There is a clear distinction between what a culture and its individuals do and what they should do. This is the difference between descriptive and prescriptive norms. History consistently demonstrates that humanity acknowledges universal notions of right and wrong. Reflecting on this, atheist philosopher Louise Antony has said, "Any argument against the objective reality of moral values will be based on premises that are less obvious than the existence of objective moral values themselves." Antony's point stands strong. It is hard to find any society where behaviors like lying are celebrated and honesty is disparaged. The universal understanding of moral right and wrong, transcending mere human opinion, raises the question of its origin. Why does a small child instinctively recognize unfair treatment or understand the wrongness of theft? This awareness suggests the presence of a universal moral law embedded within them, purportedly by a creator. This notion forms the basis of the moral argument for the existence of God, which is articulated as follows. Laws imply a lawgiver. There is an objective moral law. Therefore, there is a moral lawgiver. True objective moral good requires a sense of purpose, and purpose must stem from a cause. In the absence of God, who is posited as the cause of everything, what remains is merely a combination of time, matter, and chance. This mix leads to chaos rather than a clear, absolute moral framework. This grim reality is vividly depicted by poet Steve Turner in his poem Creed. The poem concludes with lines that starkly illustrate what morals amount to in a godless world. If chance be the father of all flesh, disaster is his rainbow in the sky, and when you hear, state of emergency. Sniper kills 10. Troops on rampage. Whites go looting. Bomb blasts school. It is but the sound of man worshiping his maker. If you enjoyed this video, please leave us a like and share it with anyone who you feel needs to hear this. And as always, subscribe and turn on your bell notification so you know when the next video drops. Until then, remember 1 Peter 3 verse 15, always be ready to give an answer for the hope that you have in Christ Jesus. See ya on the next video.